What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today I'll be going through my round 8 AFL tips and predictions, as well as covering round 7 to see how many tips I got correct and to go through the big calls as well. Before we do get into these tips, less than 50% of the people watching my content are subscribed, so if you are enjoying these tips videos and all the other content I do produce, feel free to subscribe to the channel. It does mean a lot and it helps out. And I am closing in on 20k subs, so if you do subscribe, it will help me get to that goal even quicker. It wasn't my best round. In fact, it was a below average round for my sakes last week. I tipped 5, but on ESPN, I forgot to tip West Coast Richmond and it didn't register, which is really annoying because obviously that was an obvious tip that pretty much everyone tipped the Tigers on that one. Tipped Geelong to beat Freo, and I was actually going to tip Freo leaning in on the day, but then Freo fans convinced me otherwise, so I'm like, you know what? Oh, I think I trust the Freo fan, but they were wrong. Freo could well and truly be the real deal this year. I tipped Adelaide, but I had a feeling that there was going to be that one game GWS just respond, and this was the game. Obviously, I got that one wrong. Melbourne was a pretty easy tip to get right over Hawthorn. St Kilda should have beat Port Adelaide. I'm pissed off about that still. Carlton, an easy beat against the Roos. Gold Coast, the upset didn't go my way. Of course, the Pies won that one. Bulldogs beat the Bombers quite comfortably, and then the Swans beat... the Lions beat the Swans when I did tip the Swans. So... yeah, 4 out of 9, and this was another round of the Jokers on my tipping comp, so it doesn't get any worse than that. But the big calls were a little bit better, at least to start off the round. In the first game, I predicted that the margin wouldn't exceed 20 points after quarter time, and that was definitely correct. The final margin was 109 points, and I got the second game correct. This was almost my best big call of the year. I predicted that Hawkins and Cameron would combine for 2 or less goals, and I got that one correct. Hawkins only kicked the 2 goals. Cameron didn't kick a single one. And then I was super close in a few games throughout the round, particularly the last game of the round, where a big call between Sydney and Brisbane was that there'd be 10 or more goals than behind scored. And with 120 to go, that was the case until there were 2 late Sydney behinds. That fucking screwed everything up for me. So King Gold's got 167 likes. That was to open a pack of footy cards and then ask for a refund after I've seen the cards. Will Arnott's was the second most likes with 74. Which was going to a Bunnings and pretty much ask an employee where a certain item was when it was clearly in sight. So that is the second most likes with 74 from Will. And then the last one was again AFL legend. He always seems to feature in these punishments. That's where the opposite team's merchandise to the next St Kilda game. And it looks to land on Bunnings. There we go. It lands on the one with the second most likes. Will's comment, go to a Bunnings and ask for something in a particular aisle that's already there. So I guess I'll try and get that done throughout the week and get it out to you in the next tipping video, so stay tuned for that. But on that note, I think we get right into the tips. And of course, the first game of the round is between Port Adelaide and the Western Bulldogs on Friday night. This is actually the first of 2 Friday games. I don't know why they've done it again. This one looks to be a bit more of a decent contest now than it would have been a couple of weeks ago, as the two sides have found a little bit of form, particularly Port. 2 wins on the trot. Of course, last week we all know what happened. I don't really want to remind myself of what happened. That was just a shock game of footy, one of the worst games I've ever seen. But Port Adelaide found a way to just hang on through Robbie Gray. The Dogs as well, they got a good win against the Bombers. I didn't see this game. It seemed to be a pretty easy Dogs win. I don't think the Bombers really troubled them at all during the game. So yeah, definitely Put Adelaide, 2 wins on the board. That good last half against the Blues. They're in a bit of form. The Dogs got the job done twice against the Power at Adelaide Oval, and I just feel like the Dogs will get a win here. They're a slightly better side than the Power, in my opinion. So I'm going to tip the Dogs by... I've got to tip a margin here for Friday. Now I'm going to go 16 points. And my big call will be that Jack McRae and Travis Boak combine for 70 or more touches. Next game on the Friday night, we've got Fremantle taking on North Melbourne at Optus Stadium. Of course, Fremantle are in tremendous form. They just knocked off the Cats at GMHBA Stadium. And North, they're in the other end of the scale in terms of form. 5 losses in a row, and 4 of those 5 losses have been by over 50 points. Last week, they got done by the Blues in an average game. Didn't watch it. I was at the other game, but it was a 50-point smashing. Could have been more because I think Carlton had a heap more scoring shots than North Melbourne in that one. So, yeah, I think it's a simple game to tip the Dockers. I think the Dockers get this one done quite comfortably by 55, and my big call will be that the Dockers kick the last 5 scoring shots of the game. So moving on to the Saturday games, and we've got a few ball bursters on the Saturday. The first one being Richmond and Collingwood at the MCG. I don't know why Richmond are so favoured in the odds. I think that Collingwood have been the more convincing side this year. They've been the more impressive team between these two sides. Obviously, on the weekend, got a good win against the Suns. They recorded another healthy score of 114, and they didn't really look like losing that one. Richmond had their best win of the season, and I think the biggest win of the season. I think, 109 points was one more than the Lions win against North. It was an absolute annihilation. Shai Bolton was impressive. Lynch kicked 7 in his... I think it was his 200th game or whatever it was. He could have kicked 10. Like, he had a few shots from very close out that he probably should have kicked. And they obviously look really good. But Tigers, don't think they're back, but I think they're definitely in the hunt for finals. And they probably could snatch that 8th spot that seems to be looming. But I think in a close game, I think this is definitely a lot closer than what the odds suggest. I'm going to go the Pies. They've impressed me a bit more. I think they can get this one done. If they play like they did last week. Of course, the Tigers are in some really good form, and they might be with Dusty, so you could argue it's a little bit of an upset, but I haven't really been sold on the Pies so far this season. I sort of am now. I'm going to go Collingwood in a pretty close one by 11 points. My big call will be that Jack Ginnivan kicks 4 or more goals to just continue his impressive form over the last few weeks. The next game, we've got Sydney taking on Gold Coast at the same time slot, 1:45, but look, I think I can't trust the Suns anymore. I can't really back them in. They haven't given me a reason in the last few weeks to really back them in. They've just been poor, haven't gotten anything going. They haven't been, like, atrocious, but they just haven't been in games. And, I don't think I can back them in this one. Of course, Sydney couldn't get their job done, but they weren't hopeless. It just goes to show that the Lions are a little bit higher in terms of where they're at than the Swans, and maybe the Swans aren't ready yet for the flag this year. I still think there's time, and they can definitely win it this year, that's for sure. I think last year, the Suns knocked off the Swans in a similar matchup by like 40 points, but you'd be a very brave person to be tipping the Suns in this one. I think the tipsters are going 99-1 the Swans' way, and I'm going to be part of that 99. I think the Swans get a pretty comfortable win by 41 points, with my big call that the Swans lead for the entirety of the game. And the next game, we move to Manuka Oval, and we've got GWS taking on Geelong. Obviously, the Cats have been performing a lot better than the Giants so far this season, but GWS recorded a really, really good win against Adelaide away by 10 goals on the weekend. I think Toby Green kicked 4, Himmelberg, Taranto, they kicked a few goals as well. Yeah, they just had a good game. Obviously, Josh Kelly as well, 41 touches. They're not back, but if they can beat the Cats, maybe they can start pushing for finals. There's still a chance, potentially. But of course, the Cats, they really should be winning all their games at GMHBA, but it goes to show maybe those Cats aren't as big of a powerhouse at that ground as they have been in the past. I think the Cats win this, though. They've got too much powerhouse. They've got too much class up forward. I know Cameron and Hawkins were quiet on the weekend, but they probably have good games in this one. It'll be tight. I reckon it'll be a tight game. I think GWS are finding their form now, but Geelong are too good of a side, I think, to drop this one against, for the most part, disappointing Giants outfit. So I think the Cats win it by 12. But my big call is that the Giants lead by 20 or more points at any stage of this game. Next game we have is between Essendon and Hawthorn at Marvel Stadium. Essendon have just continued their poor start to the season. Now 1-6, had an average outing against the Dogs. They never looked like winning that one from what I actually saw from that game. And Hawthorn, well, they weren't too bad against Melbourne. They probably could have won that game if a few things went their way, but Melbourne are just a classy outfit, and they just continue to get their wins. But you'd think on paper, Hawks get the job done, and they probably want to win this one if they still want to be pushing for finals. Essendon's, well, their final chances have gone out the window. I think most people can safely say that one, but if there's an upset this round, which I have already tipped a couple, I think this one could be a potential of an upset. Essendon, they always take it up to Hawthorn. It's always a good game between those two sides, and at home, something tells me Essendon bounce back and win a really, really close game. I'm going to go Essendon. It could bite me in the backside. I don't hate the Hawks. I think they're a good side, but Essendon just need to win. They just can't continue this shocking form. So I will go Essendon by 1 solitary point. With my big call will be that the Hawks lead at every quarter except for the last, in which they do end up losing. And of course, the second game on a Saturday night is between Brisbane and West Coast. And West Coast odds of $17 are probably the highest I've ever seen against two sides in a game of footy, but it's not surprising at all. I think this is the most one-sided contest of footy you'll ever come across. The Lions are continuing their really good form, second on the table. Had a great win against the Swans, who look to be a top 4 side, and they just seem like everything's going their way. Although Danaher's out for, I think, 6 weeks, so that could be a concern. In this game, it won't make any difference. It might just mean that they don't win by as much. But the Eagles are on the other end of the scale in terms of their form. That they've been absolutely horrendous. That game against Richmond was one of the worst games of footy I've seen by a certain side. Yeah, they just... they had bits of effort, but they just weren't able to execute because the skill was just absolutely atrocious. They conceded, I think, 130 points through turnovers alone, which was like a record, or up there with a record. So West Coast, they're not going to get any better. It's not going to get any easier for them with Melbourne the week after, but Brisbane at the Gabba will absolutely annihilate the Eagles in this one. I think just because of the fact Danaher's not playing, I won't tip a 100-point smashing, but yeah, Brisbane by 83 points. And a big call will be that the Lions score 9 or more goals in any quarter in an absolute annihilation. The next game of footy, we've got Melbourne taking on St Kilda at the MCG. Boy, I'm looking forward to this one. The Saints finally get to play a top 4 quality side this year. People haven't really been convinced yet of the Saints that we haven't played anyone amazing. And after last week, more people are going to start doubting the Saints. It wasn't a great game. Do I blame it on the stadium? Because let's be real, if that game was played at Marvel, the Saints would have recorded a fairly comfortable win. We just weren't able to kick straight. 4 goals, 18. Melbourne, I didn't watch this game, but they held out a tough, gritty Hawks outfit by 10 points. It just continues their streak of wins, 7 wins in a row, but I've got to lose at some stage. They can't just continue winning these games. I just can't see that happening. I don't know if I'll tip the Saints, though. They would be quite biased against the Melbourne outfit, who look like the best side in the comp. I definitely see ourselves potentially upsetting the D's. I definitely think that we have a chance of winning this game. We match up, I feel like we'll match up quite well with the D's, and we play some good footy at the MCG. We obviously beat the Hawks by 70 points there earlier this season. But I'll go the D's in a safe one. But I think this will be a really close game. Wouldn't shock me if we win. Hopefully we win. It'll be massive for our season. But I'm going to go the D's by 7. Big call will be that the Saints record the highest score against the D's this season, which is 82 or higher. And then the last game of the round is Carlton taking on the Adelaide Crows at Marvel Stadium. Carlton had their first convincing win of the year by 50 points. They're finding back a little bit of form that they lost in the last few weeks of footy. And Adelaide, after a really good start to the season, it was a disappointing result against the Giants. And because of that result, I don't really see the Crows challenging too much against the Blues. I don't think it'll be a smashing. But I think Carlton win this one by 23 points. With my big call, the Crows record more scoring shots than the Blues in this game. And my tips for this round were the Dogs, the Dockers, the Pies, the Swans, the Cats, the Bombers, the Lions, the D's, and the Blues. And as always, we'll have a look at the tipping comp to see how everyone did in round 8. So the tipping comp has heated up. Look at this. Obviously, round 7 was another week of the Jokers. My luck with Joker rounds. Every time it's a Joker round, I do pathetic in the tips. Cade Delaney 12. I think that might be the 2 Aussies on YouTube. Let me know in the comments if it is. You are on top of the tipping comp with 63 correct tips. Banger Harvey also on 63. Then we got Wilson Barry on 62. Saints fan. And Jimbo also on 62. It's heating up. Ryder Henshey. I don't know what he's doing, but I don't know how. But he's 16th in my tipping comp, so he's well and truly a chance. I am 638th. I've got no chance of winning. There's no point in even trying, it seems like. And for round 7, Matt Z tipped a total of 9, and Cardman 20. Well, that wasn't me, obviously. I don't know who this guy is, but he claims to be me. He tipped a total of 9 correct tips last week, so well done to him. And then we got a few on 8. Super Melon, Ashton Steele, to name a few. Yeah, well done. So there we go. Those are my tips for round 8. I will leave the link to the tipping comp. We're 933 members. We want to get to 1,000. If you want to comment a punishment for me to do if I don't get my big calls right, feel free to do so in the comments. And yeah, as of late, I do appreciate the support. The content's been doing quite well. And we'll see you soon for my next video, which should hopefully be on the Wednesday.